This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means? It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Amazon for all your gifting needs.
Meaningless stuff. Why do we gift so much meaningless stuff? Tired of generic gifts and hollow trends? Shutterfly allows you to create meaningful photo gifts for your family and friends. Whether it's a cozy fleece blanket for grandma, a stunning canvas print for mom, or a mug to make dad smile. Enjoy 40% off with code MAKE40 at Shutterfly.com and make something meaningful this year. See site for more details.
Welcome back to the Misfit Nation, your number one destination for discussions on a hodgepodge of topics. Last episode, we hit on strength, both mental and physical, as it relates to resilience and conquering the demons that live inside our heads. Big thanks to Chantal and George for coming on and shining light through that black hole sun. I'm sitting here drinking some Muertos Fill the Boot dark roast coffee. This is a coffee company started in California by firefighters with a passion for their community, and you know what? Coffee. Go ahead and check them out at muertoscoffeeco.com. That's MUERTOSCOFFEECO.com. Give them a try. You'll be happy you did. So after the episode went on, we reached out to see what you wanted to hear about next. Without hesitation, there were 3 good ones given to us. They are the role the family plays in the military, and how do the family members handle the stress of military life. This is a very important one to us, and we're going to hit on this one pretty good, probably through 2 episodes. Number 2 was a complex answer with a 3-episode value to it, so we're going to break it down as such. Part A, the top 3 mentors in your life. Who are they? Why they are the top 3, and what did they do? B, the best advice you've ever received, also the best advice you have ever given. And C, the top 3 accomplishments thanks to the first 2. That should be a fun one to make, and I thank Misfit Bird for bringing that one up. Number 3, funny stories while deployed. This could be handled in multiple ways, as anecdotes to each episode, or as its own episode with a variety of contributors giving stories. There's always funny stories from the sandbox. Everything's not always serious. You got to break it down sometimes and have that mental block taken out and have some fun. I'll attempt to bring all 3 of these to life. I definitely will reach out for the family roles portion. This is definitely something that needs highlighting. So as we talk about family, I must reflect on mine. For 22 years, I served in the Army on active duty. This started in September of 1993. In December of 1993, I met my rock. In May of 2004, we were married. No, it wasn't a shotgun marriage. It was just time. So in my 22 years, 1 month, and 4 days of service, I was married to the same person for over 97% of it. You hear when you are serving that once you make a certain rank, you'll be on your 2nd or 3rd spouse. It is true. I saw it. Many of those I served with were on their 2nd or 3rd by the time they were squad leaders. So yes, it is rare to see a pair make it, but it's also not impossible. My wife is the reason I made it through over 48 months deployed. She was selfless in her care of not only me, but those I was charged with mentoring and training. She would send packages all the time to me. And when holidays came around, her selflessness shone brightly. She would send a separate bag for each soldier who was with me. Her heart and soul got us all through many rough times while in theater. As mentioned earlier, we reached out and wound up with 2 great guests for the family discussion. We have decided to break this into 2 episodes. There's just so much to talk about with the family's role in military service. The first guest grew up in a very patriotic and service-oriented family. Both grandfathers served in World War II. got out of the military after World War II, and then continued to serve in the defense industry at Kelly Air Force Base for many years after. Her parents both served in the Air Force. She then got married at a young age to her husband, Pete, who served half his career in the Navy and the other half in the Air Force as a pilot. We met due to both of our passion for running. We wound up on the same sponsored teams a couple times and ran in Baltimore and the Marine Corps Marathon a few times together. Without further ado, let us bring Dr. Judy Staveley to the show. Hi, Judy. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Pretty good. Dealing with this new technology, having fun.
No kidding. This is cool.
So, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to?
Yeah. Yes.
Just working. It's been busy at Mom RP. So
It
today
has.
was, was really busy. But then we have our slow day. So it like comes in cycles depending on what comes from top down. So,
Right.
So other than that, I mean, just, staying safe. I'm still on ROM, restriction of movement. And, there's not much to do. I mean, it's winter, so kind of.
And you guys getting more snow today?
We did. It snowed really hard this morning, and then it kind of let up. I like the snow.
Yes.
I think that's the only thing I have to look forward to,
Yeah, we had our once every 5 to 6 year storm here last week, and it shut down everything for the entire week. And now it's 50 degrees. So I think we're done with winter here.
So are you at Liberty taking classes?
Yes, I am. I'm in my third semester now, or second semester, third class. And 2 more weeks.
Are you in the 8-week courses?
Yes.
Yeah, those are nice. I like the 8-week courses. It went really quick.
That's what I've noticed. And as soon as I get the groove of one course, I'm in the next one, so I have to start over. But I'm getting good at it. I guess I'm catching on to what they really want now.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Liberty. I'll probably continue. I still have some, spouses tuition credits I can use, and I'll still continue to go there, if they let me.
I'm sure they will.
But yeah, everybody's so nice. The military affairs office was really nice and helpful, and I didn't have a bad experience at all.
I haven't had one yet either, which I just keep waiting for it to happen. It hasn't happened yet, like it has at other schools I went to. But this one so far, it's very smooth. The only thing I don't like is the robocalls asking me if I'm doing okay. But they usually come at the worst period possible time ever.
Yeah, you could leave that on a survey or tell them. I told them because it was like always when I was like in the middle of a meeting, I'm like, what is that? And then it just stopped. They just finally stopped. And then they would call me like later in the evening. And so that was, kind of nice. But once you got like the advisory down and people got to know you, I guess, I don't know. But
that's the worst problem. I can deal with that one. So that's not bad at all.
Yeah, I went to other schools. I mean, considering, at the doctoral level, I studied at Walden, and I hated that school. Hated it. And it just was like, well, I think they took advantage of a lot of military people too. So, I really didn't have much of a bad experience, but it seemed like they wanted to drain more money out of you if they could.
Especially if they knew they were getting that military money, it was a guaranteed payment. So
Right. And therefore a profit university. But back in the day when I went, that was the only college online, and being a military spouse, you could go to. Yeah. So whatever. But yeah, Liberty Liberty's cool,
It's like seamless too. It was super easy admin process, very easy to get going, and they're always there asking if you need help. So it's all things you want in a university. Someday I'll actually go see the campus, I guess, once this whole cloud's off of us.
Well, they can't, I got 2 degrees and I missed well, I graduated with the EDS in 2019. So that graduation never happened. I mean, I got everything. Like I got the cap and gown and thought we were going to go. And I thought, this would be really cool. That was last year. And then they pushed it to this year and they canceled it again. So at some point, I told my mentors, you're going to hood me because I want to wear the red, white, and blue.
Of course. That we can see.
I'm like, I went to the school so I could wear that cap and gown and wear the American colors.
Outstanding.
So they're like, no, of course. So that's cool.
So I know you come from a long line of military service in your family, not just from Pete, but your parent, your dad, I guess your uncles too. And that,
yeah, everybody, is in the military. So my both grandfathers served in World War II.
oh,
So I don't have too much documentation from my dad's dad. I have some pictures of him, and then both grandfathers retired or got out of the army after World War II, and both worked at Kelly Air Force Base.
oh, wow.
So there were Air Force civilians. So they both retired after 40 years. My mom and dad did the same thing. They were Air Force, retired after 40 years, and then and then my husband Pete, retired. He did his 20 years. And then I have cousins and little cousins and extended family. My uncle was in the Navy, so yeah, we're a big military family.
I was just going by your post. I know you always congratulating someone in your family for service and reaching out to those who you actually served with or around with through Pete, through their service as well, and taking care of everyone. That's what I immediately thought of you when this subject came up. I knew you'd be perfect for this.
And it's perfect timing too, because I won that Presidential Medal Award from Blue Star Families, which I'm still waiting. I'm excited to get the medal. I go to the mailbox. I'm like, it's still not there. Go to the mailbox. It's not there. So I'm like, it'll be here. But, I think being part of Blue Star Families and mentoring younger, military spouses, like I said, this is perfect timing for that. And you have to give back because it's rough.
Yes.
It's just, and I go through it with like my little cousins, and I hear, well, my stepbrothers too went through it. Everybody goes through it. It's tough, and you need those mentors, to hear a different side of perspective. And how, like, my cousin was yelling at my her son, like, talk to Judy, and she's been through 20 years of it.
She'll get you through it. She knows everything.
So, but yeah, thanks for letting me do this. Hopefully I can.
I think you're going to be perfect. So we can dive in now and go into the questions, and we'll bounce around probably off topic as well. Would make it more whatever you want to do after the questions or through the questions. That's fine with me. So,
okay.
So as we just discussed, that in order to make a marriage work, there has to be equal effort from both people in the union. Marriage of any relationship is not easy to maneuver through. When you add the military into the equation, it becomes exponentially harder. How did you cope with this stress of being a military spouse?
Well, when I met my husband, he was in the Navy. We were dating. And we dated a couple of years before we actually got married. And, looking back, I did a lot of reflection during this afternoon or this past week when you asked me to do this interview. So, like I said, I was very young, not knowing what I was getting myself into. However, in the Navy, we did 10 years Navy, and then we did 10 years Air Force. And the Navy, I will say, they had a lot of support systems back in the day. So we didn't have military one source. We didn't have the mentorships or, some of these advocacies that are out there now supporting the troops. And I can't thank these programs enough for helping military families, because without the advocacy networks and the support, military families struggle. And, we need our military families to be ready, have readiness. And so our soldiers are operational ready to go wherever they're going to be deployed. So the military spouses and kids, are what the soldier waits for when they get back home. So I know, going through years of travel and, moving from job to job, and, it's another thing that's important is community. So when you move somewhere as a military family, living in a community that supports you is a big deal. The community needs to remember that a family serves together. One of the things I used to get told as a military spouse, and this is kind of a negative comment, but it's something to kind of reflect on, and how things have changed over the years. A lot of people don't see the spouse or the children as the veteran. And that is true. Like, we're not the soldiers, we're the support of the soldiers, but a military family is a unit. So people need to know that a family serves together in order, for our soldier to do the mission. So, support is a big thing. Military spouses struggle to go, get a career. A lot of, rotations can be as little as a year, and you get up and move again, every year or every 2 years. For pilot families, we move from 18 months to 3 years. It just depends on, what the mission was,
Right.
and where his duty station was. So we would, pack up and go. So being very young, it's hard. Being a young spouse, which most of, military spouses are, and then you grow into the network as you get older. It's hard to hold a job, first off. But nowadays we have, like I said, these advocacy programs that help spouses and children with programs that, these spouses can take for education. They can get licensed, so they can find an easy career to move with. Contracting companies are now coming forward to help spouses. Military One Source is now around, where, spouses can get support groups or scholarship information to take courses. That's what I did. I took a lot of classes, because that was, we would get up every year and move. So you look at my college transcript and you're like, wow, you went to a lot of schools. Well, yes, I did, because I followed my spouse. So you would have to get up and transfer to another school, or, that was one of the things that kept me busy. But like I said, you need that support network to balance the relationship out. So if you feel a sense of belonging when you move, and your husband's supporting that, and the wife is happy and the husband's happy, well, that's one of the biggest things that, makes the marriage work.
That's definitely right. And I like that you brought up community, and the job's hard to hold. And that I witnessed that with my wife and all our moves, that a lot of places didn't want to hire her because they didn't know if she was going to be around for a year or any time period whatsoever to invest in her. So they didn't want to hire her. So that was a big hurdle that now has been lifted thanks to your generation of spouses, because you guys basically had to find the way.
We had to fight hard, and I was I like to say I was one of the biggest advocates for pushing a lot of these programs on the Hill. I was out there at events meeting politicians and speaking at events and trying to make a difference for the military spouse. And I was honored to meet many wonderful people at the Hill, politicians again, that came through for, the military spouses. And also, and the military themselves, at the higher level, started implementing and funding more programs for support and military readiness. But it is a stressor for the spouses. My husband, he was in the Navy. I was young. He would deploy on workups prior to going on a cruise. And then it was a 1-year cruise deployment. So you wouldn't see your husband for an entire year. And then prior to that, you had the workups. So that alone is a stressor.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're like, okay, I'm 25 years old or whatever I was at the time. And we had our first child. And of course, my husband was a fighter pilot, so I had that in the back of my head. The danger of what could possibly happen with him flying the F-18 Hornet, him going to God knows where on the Stennis, and me being home alone with our new child. So you see a lot of this, with young families, and it's important to people like me or older generations to mentor the young couples to discuss kind of the same experiences that people go through, so they can kind of understand they're not alone in this. And that's what I had. The Navy was wonderful. They had the Military Spouses Club. So they would keep us busy while the guys were in deployment. So that was huge. They also had, MWR activities, morale activities to keep us, happy. And they would send us newsletters from the ship. So MWR is a big factor when your husband or your spouse or your wife, could be a spouse also, is deployed. So they'd have a lot of, those events where we could go. I know we went to a concert with Little Richard.
Now.
I had to think back. That was a long time ago. But, it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, this is really nice. It was like, we're all together having a good time, listening to music, and it just got your mind off of what could possibly happen. Yeah, the stress, and you're thinking of what could possibly happen, and I think every, spouse goes through that. But again, like I said, back then they had a lot of support briefings. So I not only would they'd come and support us, with events, but they would come and brief us and kind of give us what's going on, what's going to happen, and what you could possibly do. And, the encouragement and the sense of belonging was there. We didn't have phones and Facebook.
Internet.
We had the internet, but it was just starting. I think I just aged myself, but it was just starting. And so it was like, if you got an email through AOL, that was a big deal.
That was an exciting day.
It was. And, over the years, as we got older, and he did an inter-service transfer to the Air Force. He got deployed with the Air Force, also, and did TDYs, and we had the internet, we had cameras. So that made it a lot easier to stay in touch and, communicate.
That's,
And
that's how we look
I
at it
think,
too here. Because my first half of my career was kind of the same way. It was basically just letter writing and that one phone call a month you're allowed to get when you're overseas, or if you want to spend a lot of money, make a collect call. And then
that's right. It was 1 month. It was a 1 monther, wasn't it? It was, you can call once a month.
yeah, for free. And then after that, you had to either call collect or get robbed on one of those little phone card things.
Right. And that's what we were discussing the other day, because he was, mentioning, hey, well, we have to pay $1 a minute. And by the time you would get connected, it was like $13 a phone call.
Yeah.
So I do remember buying him those cards.
And that was like a monopoly. So
it was. And, back then we didn't make any money.
Right.
We were like poor.
just,
But it was worth it, because you want to hear that person's voice. Right. So, and that's important to keeping the marriage strong.
Definitely. So you just explained a lot about this next question anyway. So you had the honor of serving through both peacetime and then during the prolonged war period. Were there any tricks or habits you picked up to help you get through most of this?
Well, tricks and habits, as a young spouse, you have to have time management. And that's one thing that I learned at a very young age. When he was out, in the Middle East doing his thing, for an entire year, I had to learn to be independent first off. I was, like I said, 25. And so I would have to cut the grass, take care of our household, manage the budget. We had power of attorney, so that was something new that I had to learn. So some legal aspects of, through all these different briefings that the military puts you through. So that was kind of overwhelming.
Seeing the first will.
Sorry, what did you say?
Seeing the first, last will and testament that you had to look at.
Exactly. So at a very young age, that's difficult, because again, that's a stressor that, at a 25-year-old, that you really have to process all this.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we did lose some friends. And it was very sad and very overwhelming. And you carry those throughout the year. But again, you have to step back and kind of think, why did I marry this individual? Well, I was attractive. I loved him. We had a good time. You can't always think the negatives, like, oh my God, he could possibly die.
Right.
Or, that's just going to bring on more anxiety. So, again, that was one of the things that the Navy had. They would have briefings and talks and support groups, and that was helpful. And actually, I was a counselor. I was trained to be a counselor in the Navy also. I was very young to kind of give back of, those testimonies of what we felt and what we gave to the next squadron of wives or whoever was coming in. But you have to think of the mission. My husband, sorry, the dog's barking. Is he really loud?
I thought mine were loud before.
Let me see if I can move to the other room. The question.
You learned how to be a counselor in the Navy.
Yes. So having those briefings, how to deal with, with the stressors that we were going through. But we dealt with everything together as a military spouse unit and a squadron. So I know, like, for the enlisted individuals, they have an ombudsman that gives the spouse's support. And now, we have Blue Star families that have advocacy programs and supports and virtual meetings. And, we have other advocacy programs for, you know, every branch of the military, which is phenomenal, you know, for the military spouses and the military individual themselves. And I encourage all military spouses to partake in these events, because not only is it going to help your marriage, but it also builds a network of community. So when you're moving around, nowadays we have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, and you'll build your network. And a lot of people will ask, like, you have an extensive network. Well, first off, yes, because we were in the military for 20 years. We moved around a lot. So not only of my network is my military family, but it's people that I worked with all over the world. And so, you know, you build these relationships, and you keep in touch. So that's the beauty of, you know, social media. And then when things happen, you know, like COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs, you know, you can reach out to each other and network, and, you know, kind of say, hey, you know, I lost my job, I need an opportunity, and you have your friends there to support you. So that's, you know, that's huge. And but like I said, there's hiring heroes, you know, Blue Star families, military spouses, you know, always looking for scholarships to advance their education. And the other day on LinkedIn, I'm part of a military spouse group. I'm not too involved with it as I should, but somebody tagged me on it. And it was a female young spouse looking for, you know, scholarships for education. There's a lot of different ones out there, which is wonderful. We have Liberty University, which, congratulations, you're in a doctoral program. And but I will say Liberty University is probably one of the biggest supporters for military spouses. I think American University is another one.
Yes.
But the biggest, you know, I think generous scholarship you're going to find out there is probably the one given by Liberty. So a lot of spouses don't know that. So I wanted to kind of put that out there because, you know,
that's a good tidbit of advice for them right there.
It is. It's a generous scholarship, and there's not much you need to do for it. You just need to, you know, apply. So in the military affairs office will help you with the guidance that you need to get into either bachelor's, or it goes from associates to bachelor's, master's, and doctoral. So I was fortunate enough to get a couple of degrees using my scholarship. So that was really nice. So yes.
They are. I mean, they give me a pretty good discount just for being a veteran and just starting there as at the doctorate level. The cost is very low compared to other schools. So it's amazing.
Yes, and I mean, veterans need to take advantage of these, you know, benefits because they're there for you. And again, thank you for your service, Rich. But you know, you're not going to find a better discount than that.
Right. And they said, oh, you could either A or B. You could say you're a veteran and pay this price, or say don't use the veteran route and start from here. And I say, I'm pretty good, thanks. I'll go with veteran.
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
So like I said, there's a lot of different, you know, programs that they offer with that scholarship, like mine focused on education. Well, education has been my career for the past, you know, 16 years, almost 17 years. I was a professor for 15 years and then moved over to a contracting job to do more science, which I feel blessed to have. But over my years, you know, as a professor, that was one of the outlets as a spouse that I could do. I could get up and move and always teach. It wasn't my dream job. A lot of people are like, oh, you know, find being a professor very prestigious. But again, you have to do what's right for you, your passion. Right. I loved teaching when I did it. You know, it grew on me. But I always wanted to be part of the military science.
Yeah, I remember when you got in that position, how excited you were, and that was amazing how happy you got with leaving one area of life and into your next chapter. It was great to watch it.
It was, I know, and it's funny how all the stars aligned, because I never thought that I would get to where I'm at now. But one thing that people need to remember is never give up. Persistent does pays off. So being persistent paid off for me. Um, and you just, do the grind, get the experience, and you just keep plugging at what you want to, achieve at, make your goals. Um, Again, I had a supportive husband. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't, you know, be in my position if I don't think if it wasn't for my husband Pete. Um, because I would probably would have just continued to teach. But, having feedback and support and communication in your marriage is a big factor of where I'm at now. So I have to give props to him too.
Make sure he hears it.
Well, and I kind of look back, I'm like, well, I was a military spouse, because I get questioned a lot. Well, you could have done something, a higher paying job years ago. Why didn't you do that? Well, because I couldn't. It wasn't even a thought that crossed my mind, because my first job was supporting my husband and his mission, hands down.
Right, and your young family.
And my family, my kids. So, I was lucky enough that, I could do a part-time teaching gig, teaching biology, gross anatomy, or whatever I could teach, take care of my kids. But again, my main focus was my husband's job and him doing his mission, because he was a pilot, and, he needed to do what he needed to do. And it's just how it goes. And that goes for any profession, not just because he was a pilot, but, or guys that are, in the Middle East. Like I said, I have family, all types of family in the military that have different missions that they do. And all of them are, just as important.
Exactly.
So,
They're all I guess cogs in the wheel, part of the wheel that makes this engine go. So.
Exactly.
So I guess I'll combine the last two questions, since you pretty much have answered question 4 with your advice for all the organizations and scholarships and such. But was there any veteran spouse, as you were coming up, you were a young spouse, was there anyone that you picked you up and gave you advice and helped you on your path?
I really didn't have much of a mentor, unfortunately. I wish I did. Like I said, there wasn't mentoring around back then like it is now. I think mentoring has become a huge thing in education, in the military, in businesses and careers. And that's my passion, is, publishing on mentoring and why it's important. And we need to continue to advocate for mentors, especially in the military. And we had support groups, but you can have those support groups along with mentors. And if you paired up those mentors, I think military spouses would have more of a sense of belonging. You have these families that may move. We were in Alaska, for example, and you move and you kind of just say, okay, we have our orders. We're going to this military installation. We really don't know anyone. And a spouse can just start working. They might find a job while they're there and, live off base. So some families will live on base to get the sense of belonging, because they're experiencing, that same move. They live in the same neighborhood, but a lot of families that are in the military don't live on base because there might not be base housing. So they have to live off base. So some spouses will lose that sense of belonging and kind of get lost in the shuffle. And if a person's not like outgoing, they might be shy. Again, that's another thing that, a mentor could guide them and, support them and possibly networking or meeting other spouses, and that's really important. We have this, like I said, spouses club, we would get together, but sometimes, if you're shy and you're not attending these, spouses club, you might just need a mentor, and a mentor could check up on you and be like, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Are you working? Do you need any support? We're here for you.
Kind of force them to get out of their introverted shell.
Exactly. I'm definitely not introverted.
Yeah, I knew that. But there are many that are. They come from small town USA, never really met anyone, and next thing they know, they're on a military base with people from all over the country that they never even thought they'd talk to in their lives. So they kind of put themselves in that corner, like you said. So it's definitely a great idea.
I come from military town USA, San Antonio, Texas, and San Antonio is huge. It's got, I don't know, we used to have 7 bases. It's kind of now everything's joint, but I grew up on an Air Force base, and then you have a lot of Army installations. So basic training occurs in San Antonio, Texas for the Air Force. I used to see a lot of the cadets, so young, going through basic training, and then they would get leave and then, go downtown San Antonio. But, it's a lot to take on at a young age. Some of our troops, enlist into the military as early as 17, 18 years old.
Right.
Yeah, and then they take off.
Yeah. A lot of the young servicemen, they have the same issues. A lot of them have never had someone that was there to help them. And they come in and think they're supposed to do everything on their own. And they wind up in that same situation. And sometimes those are the ones who meet that shy woman or shy young lady and get married to them. And now you have 2 shy people together. You don't ask for help. And
exactly. They don't. And that's, I don't know, military individuals need to ask for help. It's a culture thing, I think.
Definitely.
Everybody wants to be independent.
Yes.
Especially at that age, but at the end of the day, you need to utilize your resources. They're there for a reason. There's, like I said, the military advocacy programs. There's plenty on base. There's some, offered by MWR, right? If you're living on base, access those. But off base, like I said, there's other programs. Hiring Heroes is, I think, a phenomenal organization that supports spouses and veterans to get jobs. I was invited 2 years ago to an event in Washington, D.C., and I didn't know what I was going to really be walking into. And I walk into this event, and it was so fancy, and they had food, and, Booz Allen was there. I met the VP from Booz Allen, and, Toyota, the CEO from Toyota. There was, a lot of military families and other organizations to basically guide you, into a career or any type of support that you needed. Blue Star families were there. And I said, wow, this is amazing. I wish I had all this support when we were younger. But, technology has changed, and like I said, the young generation really needs to utilize these resources. In a lot right now, we're struggling with the pandemic and a lot of stressors that bring on onto the family and our veterans. So there is help, a lot of, support lines out there, especially for suicide. We have, that suicide veteran hotline, and anybody needs help, they need to utilize that line.
And that comes back to what you were saying about, I guess, swallowing your pride and asking for help. A lot, especially when I was coming up, if you asked for help, you were just basically, you thought you'd be blacklisted. So you didn't ask for help. You either figured it out or you washed out. And that's basically what happened along the career. Now, as we've gotten to this prolonged war, the long war here, things have changed exponentially just from the start of the war to now, and even for the last 5 years, with support services for the soldier, for the sailor, for the airman, and even the coasties. They have support networks there that they make sure that their people are taken care of, and it's way better now for the soldier, for the service member, than it was back then. And that's something we got to look back. All we past Vietnam veterans who had zero support, and they fought for everything. And then we seen them. We always thought they were just disgruntled dudes. And then we went to war and we realized everything that they fought for is better for us now. And then everything we were fighting for is now getting better for the next generation.
Well, my stepfather is a veteran, Vietnam veteran. Sorry, and back then, like I said, my grandfather was a World War II vet. My stepdad's a Vietnam veteran, and what I was told is you suck it up.
Yeah.
And they would go to the VFW, which they still do. Unfortunately, my grandfather's passed, but that was his outlet. That was their support group, and it still is my stepdad's support group. The VFW or those type of organizations, American Legion. I'm sure there's other ones out there. The Korean one.
Yeah.
The Korean vets, right? The Korean vets get forgotten sometimes, but that was one of the biggest wars,
Yeah.
and so those support systems. That's what they utilize now. But I think recently, the VA has stepped up their game.
Oh, yes.
So the VA has, a lot of support services for our veterans now. And I encourage our veterans to utilize those resources and participate in studies and whatever you can do to give back, for military research purposes, to help the next generation that would be resourceful for everybody.
Pretty much everything I've asked for from the VA since 2015 when I got out, I've received.
That's right.
So it's
well, we've gone through it too, and and luckily there's things have changed. Now you can utilize them a bit more.
There's some things that were questionable. I went in with a hurt shoulder and they kept checking my wrist, and I had to keep telling them it was my shoulder. So I got a little scared, thought they were going to amputate something I didn't need to amputate. But
oh, my Lord.
Other than that was the only hiccup I had, really.
Well, the medicine's gotten better, so I have to advocate for that. There's a lot of money that goes into medicine and, research, and Walter Reed, does a lot for military medicine. It's not what it used to be. So I have to, do a shout out for them. So
that entire
like I said,
is amazing.
It is. It really is. And like I said, there's amazing doctors there, amazing researchers. I know because I see it firsthand. And things have changed from when we were, in the military and when my husband was serving. So it was one of those things like, well, for us, because a spouse can utilize the military hospitals. And it was one of those things like, do we really want to get treated at a military hospital? You always have that in the back of your head.
Oh, yeah.
I know I had to get I had a cast, I had a broken arm in Alaska, but I look back, that was one of the best treatments I had because I had to go see the flight surgeon. It wasn't like your typical primary doctor that you just go see, like a civilian. I would have to go see the same flight doc that my husband had to see. So the flight doc was my doctor.
And he knew he had to take care of you.
Exactly. So, luckily it was just, a cast on my arm. I broke my arm running. And so I didn't have to have any surgery. But like I said, times have changed and things have gotten a lot better. And we have good quality military medicine now.
Definitely. It's exponentially better now. So,
it is.
And that's also thanks to those who came before us. And I guess we're the test market for this whole system that we have now.
It is. And it's very important to, discuss it with everybody because that stigma's still there.
Oh, yeah.
People are, you have the older generation like, oh, no, I wouldn't go there for the life. If my life depended on it, but things have changed. But even like testimonial from like my stepdad. He will even, he served in the Vietnam. He'll say, the VA has gotten a lot better, and they have really taken care of him, and he suffered from Agent Orange, and unfortunately had cancer, but the treatments that he received from the VA hospital system, he's been cured. And that's something to say for my family. And he's been healthy enough to take care of my mom, and there's that support system there that unfortunately now we're in a pandemic and I can't see them, but at least I know that they're fine and they're well taken care of.
And they got each other to take care of each other now, so that's good.
Exactly.
All right, you just went pretty long. It's actually a great talk. We hit every one of my questions without even trying, so that was pretty good. Yeah, I knew giving to you early would help out, and it did. And
I know there's so much to cover.
Yeah,
so
this was outstanding. I might have to make this into a two episode program for the family. So I appreciate you taking your time, and tell Pete hello and just have fun in the snow.